We do have commissioners that are joining us remotely. Robert McNeil's got some sort of crud, and Doug Rader's got COVID floating around in his family. I see you, Robert. I hope you can see us. Can't hear you. That's okay, too. 6 o'clock, we'll begin our public comment session for our February Marine Fisheries Commission meeting. If y'all will turn off or at least mute your cell phones, I will appreciate it. Good evening, everyone. I'm Rob Bizzle, Chairman of the North Carolina Marine Fisheries Commission, and would like to welcome you to our public comment session where you have a unique opportunity to, on the record, give comments in regard to the Marine Fisheries Commission's management of the state's public trust estuarine and marine resources. I ask you to limit your comments to 3 minutes. You will be reminded when you have approximately 30 seconds left. Please state if you represent any group. If you address the Commission tonight, you will not be allowed to do so tomorrow morning. Remember, this is a time to share concerns or gather information, not to be confrontational. Our first one up tonight is going to be, and if I butcher your name, it's nothing personal, it's just me, Joyce Ingraham, followed by, looks like Taylor Barefoot. So, Joyce.
Hello, my name's Joyce Ingraham. I'm from Wilmington. My husband is a commercial fisherman, and I'm a seafood dealer. And what I wanted to bring out was that our livelihood is being threatened by the very people we've been trusting to look after our interests. In recent years, more and more restrictions have been put on our fishing activities. And like 3 or 4 years ago, Spanish mackerel was shut down 1 week after we started catching them in the southern part of the state. Before that, trout and shad. And the northern section of the state filled up the quota for the Spanish mackerel before the fish even arrived in our area. And we were only allowed the bycatch allowance. Then last year, of course, spot fishing was closed December 10th, and then croaker fishing. And we make most of our income during this time of year. Now we got the striped mullet, and that's a big problem for us. We've never started fishing for Popeye mullets before October 30th. My husband remembers that as a child, his parents would be catching or picking the first run of Popeye mullets while they were out trick-or-treating. So it's always been this way. And we know that records show that there's been an increase in the species reports, but it's not because of overfishing. It's because we're not fishing for them at the time, because either they're not giving us enough money for those, or we're making more money on other species, and we can't leave like $3,000, $4,000 a day to go fishing for something we might not catch. And we think that the regulations are based on flawed data. I mean, even in Virginia and other states of the north, they're opening the very fisheries that y'all are starting to close. And really, people fail to take into consideration the number of juvenile mullets that are being caught by the millions,
30 seconds.
for bait for the recreational fishermen. And think about it, that obviously counts for fewer adults for the available fishery. And, you know, why not limit that? My husband's 63. He's been fishing since he was 14, and even earlier with his father, and he's done nothing else. It's too late for him to find another occupation. I mean, McDonald's
Time.
and Walmart.
Need to call time on you, ma'am.
Can I say one?
Real quick, it was one sentence.
Just please give us some help here.
Okay, thank you, ma'am, appreciate that. Okay, this is Taylor Barefoot, followed by Stuart Crichton. Did I get your name right? Okay, thank you.
My name is Taylor Barefoot. I'm from Wilmington, North Carolina. I'm a young commercial fisherman, probably right there at or over 300 log days of trip tickets. And the laws that you're trying to put on us right now are a very harsh thing to do to plan for your future. And I know all you plan your future right now by what you're doing now, not what you think you can do or what you cannot do in the future. And I know you all do it. You make your house payments and everything by your job. But when you cut us out of a job, it's hard to make those things. And it's not only the fishermen that you hurt, you hurt our families when you do that. And, you know, most people here are family people. And they depend, their wives and their children depend on the fish that the fishermen catch for them. And it's just like y'all's family depend on y'all's job, you know. We depend on it. And it's hard to swallow the pill of cutting the fishery out when there's high question about your flawed data. And you got us so limited now on fisheries with Spanish mackerel, like Joyce said, spots and croakers past the 7th of December. And I think North Carolina Marine Fisheries, when they make bad calls like this, they need to be held accountable for those bad calls. They need to be questioned, and something needs to happen, an equal reaction that needs to happen when a bad call gets made, because when you put us out of business, something needs to happen with y'all too. Because it's just, like I get 3 minutes to talk, but you got to realize when you cut a fishery down, that's a lifetime. You don't get it back. And once y'all close it, you never get it back. And I don't know if you've ever been fired, any of you, from a job, but when you have something taken from you and it's ripped from you and something you've done and you love to do, like I love mullet fish and all these men behind us and all the people that sent public comment, it is the worst feeling there's ever been to have something ripped from you. And I really hope you take a good thought about this and think about how it really affects the people behind the fishery. It's just not something you sign and just throw it behind you and say, well, it's done. It's a lifetime of
30
it
seconds.
is a lifetime. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Stuart Crichton, followed by Sam Romano.
Good evening, Commissioners. I've only got one page tonight, so I might actually get through all this for a change. I want to talk for a minute about the upcoming speckled trout update for the FMP. Fortunately, the stock remains in relatively good shape as it's not overfished. It should be no surprise, however, that speckled trout are experiencing overfishing as they are currently carrying inshore fishing right now. With other fisheries under severe harvest restrictions, both user groups are increasing the pressure placed on speckled trout. I feel that overfishing can be adequately addressed by undertaking the following measures. First, remove gill nets and replace them with hook and line for commercial fishermen. It's a high-capacity fishery with a 75 per day limit, so hook and line would be a viable and affordable replacement. Included in that must be a cap or freeze on the licenses to prevent people entering just to escape recreational limits. Next, maintain the recreational limit at 4 per person per day, but create a full slot across both user groups from 14 to 22 inches. Be sure to protect the larger fish to improve recruitment capacity and efficiency. Next, recreational discards are high, and that is a concern. So require the use of circle hooks when using natural bait and either inline hooks or compressed barbs on trebles for artificials. These adjustments should drastically reduce dead discards from deep-hooked fish. Next, remove the personal consumption loophole on the commercial side. This encourages significant unreported effort. And finally, reform the requirements for holding an SCFL to reduce the effort from the 60% of current license holders that never report a single trip ticket. Also, during this meeting, you guys are going to be discussing a very well-written and comprehensive paper on the false albacore fishery. I do not know what action to which this report is a precursor, but I would simply remind the Commission of the importance of the albacore fishery to the recreational community. Any future management decisions should be made with abundance in mind. And then finally, I didn't spend any of my time talking about this, but I would like to remind all of the commissioners of the email I sent out to everyone requesting revisions to the current rules regarding pound net sets. I was serious about that, and I do expect you guys to act in good faith
30
as you
seconds.
follow up on that. Can I bank the last 25 seconds for next time?
No.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Sam Romano, followed by Tim Hergenrader. Good to see you, Sam.
My name is Sam Romano, and I'm a commercial fisherman, co-owner of Seaview Crab Company in Wilmington, North Carolina, and former Marine Fisheries Commissioner. I wanted to take this opportunity to communicate some surprising and somewhat unsettling facts I came to realize during my time as a commissioner. The haphazard pace and lack of understanding when it comes to the adoption of rules is particularly alarming. The fishing industry is among the most regulated in the country and shares similar amounts of regulations as pharmaceuticals and transportation. Instead of enhancing collaboration for the betterment of fisheries, I spent my term playing defense against overregulation and being the voice of the hardworking men and women of the seafood industry and the underrepresented seafood consumer. Every time there's a new fisheries management plan, there's a new opportunity for rulemaking, and there seemed to be an agenda against commercial fishing in whatever species were discussed. This baffled me as a seafood entrepreneur as I came to realize that North Carolina commercial fishing industry is shrinking, and I have to do whatever I can to promote and stabilize our food network and get the seafood to the people. My fellow commissioners and I would point out data gaps and logical flaws in many stock assessments and proposed reduction, but for some, taking action meant making rules rather than making new research goals, filling data gaps, stock and habitat enhancement, water quality proactivity, and a general curiosity about these valuable stocks. Many times, stock assessments would run completely contrary to what fishermen of all types were seeing on the water. You're seeing this in real time with the perception of the stock abundance of mullet. Most of the time, economic and cultural implications are ignored prior to rulemaking, and our most vulnerable workers and consumers suffer. Worse yet, when we make these drastic reductions, we seldom go back and see if we are actually doing what we thought they would do. Being a humble, curious commercial fisherman, I've spent hours of time speaking with the most experienced veteran fishermen I know, and I am convinced that there are long-term cycles in these fisheries outside of our understanding. Most times, making rules is ineffective and a waste of resources, time, and energy. During implementation of these rules, Marine Patrol has a ludicrous burden of enforcement on a case-by-case basis with a huge book of overly complicated rules. Each rule that comes out leads to more bickering among user groups and a total distrust of the system. Commercial fishermen throw out their gear with no
30
compensation,
seconds.
have to totally rehash their strategy every year in order to make a profit. This is leading to an unsettling lack of recruitment of young people and in these fisheries and destabilization of our local food network at its core. I ask you all, when it comes time to vote on these new rules, be humble, curious, and thoughtful about the implications of your actions. Thank you to all the commercial fishermen for your continuing commitment to providing seafood to your community and our country. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. Tim Hergenrader, followed by Donald Willis.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me here, or allowing me to speak. I'm Tim Hergenrader. I'm a recreational fisherman and a conservationist. I live in Pamlico County. I want to speak very briefly about my dismay and disgust with the decision to apply for renewal of the incidental take permit. I think it's a travesty. We don't need an incidental take permit. We do not need large mesh gill nets to harvest flounder. The flounder can be harvested in much cleaner methods using pound nets and gigging and even recreational fishing for them. You do not need that incidental take permit, and it's an embarrassment. You look at Facebook, and I'm seeing more and more posts on Facebook by all kinds of groups who are working up and down the East Coast to help the sea turtles. All kinds of efforts to bring them back from near death from frost, cold water, hooks, nets, damage, but they're working their tails off, and they're loving every minute of it, and they really are into sea turtles. And what are we doing? Trying to find new ways to kill them. I wish that was, I can't believe that we do that as grown human beings when we don't need to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Donald Willis, followed by Al Heron.
Hello, I'm Donald Willis. I've been in the tackle industry since 1986. I've seen a lot of fisheries go away in that time. And now we come up to speckled trout. I know we're going to address this later this year. For the tackle industry, for the guides, it's a very important fish to us. We've got to have it. I mean, we're down, one drum, 4 trout. It's something that we really need to keep, especially for these river, the people that are making their money, from these rivers and stuff. When it comes as far as the trout go, I think pushing barbs down is a great thing to do. All my trout rigs are single hooks when barbs press down. All my mirror lures, all my soft dines, and everything else I use. And I find it very easy to release a fish without even bringing it out of the water, just by putting my hand under them, shaking it, and it's gone. Top water baits, everything. But enough on that. The other thing I want to talk about is the albacore. I would really like to see this commission to be proactive on that. It's a very important recreational fish down at the coast. And we need that fish. And please look at it and make some wise decisions and to keep those fish in abundance. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Al, is it Heron?
Thank you. I am Al Heron. I do commercial fish, and I don't think a whole lot about knocking off the tail end of the mullet season. mullets, you know, Lord love them, love to stay up the rivers the whole summer. They make one little short run out to sea, and that's about it. We watch them up here all summer when we're crab potting, and there's literally thousands of them. They really like it up here. You can't fish for them up here. So, you know, that fishery's dead. So the few that you do catch scattered here and there really don't amount to a whole lot. You have the one little run. That little run happens right at the tail end of the year. And I think that if you want to see your catch ratio drop a whole lot, that you knock out a few weeks at the end of the year, and you'll see your landings go down to substantially. And that's about it. I just think that, you know, further thought needs to go into that, see where the fish really are. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Has everybody had a chance to address the commission tonight that care to? Got one more? Yes, sir. Have we gotten you signed in, sir? Okay, all right. Okay, all right, well, I'll put it down on mine, too.
Ken Siegler, Hubert, North Carolina, commercial fisherman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your time. Quite concerned about what's being proposed. We're closing the mullet fishery on the 7th. What that's going to do and what the commission doesn't realize, or maybe the biologists don't realize, there's actually two different fisheries here on mullets. There's a northern fishery, and when those fish get 15, 17% where they can be cut, they're cutting. We're 2 to 3 weeks behind that, south of Bogue Sound. Okay, so we've got to wait those 2 or 3 weeks for those mullet to ripen up before they're even beneficial to go to market. We don't even bother with them because the market doesn't want them. So they're growing roe. But you're going to close the fishery, and you want to achieve a 20% reduction. Well, that entire 20% reduction is going to come south of Bogue Sound because the fishery is going to operate as normal north of there. And those fish are going to be caught. And some of the people from the southern part of the state with the boats and equipment are going to move up in those areas, and you're going to have some controversy that goes on. You're causing problems, okay? Shutting the fishery down for the southern part of the state is not a very efficient way to do it. There's much, much better ways. Hopefully in this upcoming FMP, there's a lot of good things that can come out of it. But if you're going, and there is, but coming by now, and in this process, you eliminated the 146 data, you eliminated the more Beaufort Bridge survey data. You won't even accept the data from the last 3 years, the most current data. That's all gone. It's all gone. And this assessment that's been done is not a good one. It's not good at all. It doesn't effectively address the issues which should be addressed but aren't being addressed. And the only thing it's doing is just shutting down the fishery for the entire southern part of the state. And that can't be allowed to happen.
Seconds.
There was a fellow on one of the committees, and I try to listen to every one of those meetings, that said, we've got to get rid of the nets. You can't have a roe fishery on a fish and expect it to do any good. Well, I wonder how he feels about flounder, because that's exactly what we're prosecuting on flounder, is a roe fishery, occurs in the fall. Every fish 15 inches up is a spawning fish, so why are we targeting only
Time.
spawning fish?
Thanks, sir. Appreciate your comments. Okay, has everybody had a chance to address the commission tonight that cares to? All right, our public comment session is ended, and we'll see y'all tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, same spot.